look at three topics. One is agriculture. The other one is pollution, I would say land-based pollution essentially. We'll also look at sand mining or any other kind of mining for aggregates for construction in the area. Now, from the shoreline to the crest of the mountain, because that forms our drainage basin, or what we will call our catchment area. And if we take the distance on average from the shoreline to the crest of the mountain, it's a little below 1 mile. And 1 mile has how many feet? 5,280 feet. So it's a little below 1 mile. But, and I'm taking that distance across the shoreline for the purpose of estimating the slope category that we're in. Right now, you will consider it as a very steep slope because over a distance of about 400 feet above sea level. So there's a steep slope from the ridge, that ridge up there, coming to the shoreline. And in terms of the longitudinal profile, we're looking at a distance of about, I would say, 3 miles. The longitudinal profile is pretty consistent from this end to that end. But consider also that this is only a part of the bioreserve. So the bioreserve extends further that way and this way. But this is our study area. And this is called the Keys Beach. And it's bounded by one headland over there and another headland here. Now, we can perhaps define pollution as any kind of substance in an area that is not wanted. There are different types of pollution or different categories of substances. Some are biodegradable and some are not. But what we want to consider here as pollutants would be those substances that are hazardous, like hazardous waste with certain chemicals that can be detrimental for organisms within the area and overall environmental degradation. Now, we know that there's a dilapidated building here. We see lots of pallets. Maybe that's for a particular use. Now that's biodegradable, but how long would it take for that to become biodegradable, to break down or decompose to become soil? So those are important for agriculture. I think the only opportunities for agriculture here would be perhaps some backyard gardening at a subsistence level, because along the main road, that area probably has been flattened out to accommodate the road and the railroad track and the residences. And they do have small plots of land, what we call a backyard. And perhaps there are some opportunities, but it's not a large plot of land or large expanses of land. So the type of agriculture that is possible here, maybe it's non-traditional, where they can formulate the soil either in their backyard in small containers, so there's some soil conservation. I don't see in this area that there's any possibility of commercial agriculture. I don't see that at all, or any larger scale subsistence form of agriculture. Perhaps some livestock, but they will have to be contained in the area, because if they become part of the phenomenon of the stray roaming livestock, it can be detrimental because we don't have a large expanse of land and it can deplete the vegetation very quickly. And that vegetation is important to keep the hillsides vegetated, because if the vegetation were gone, you will have a lot of erosion and affecting the residents, and also a sedimentation coming from the hillside into the sea, and then sedimentation of course could be considered as a form of pollution for the sea, for the reefs along here. If there are probably any poultry or pigs, that sort of thing, that are not ruminants that graze on the vegetation, but they're fed from wherever the food they may be able to bring in, that may be feasible, but to a small scale. And we don't want it on a large scale anyway, because the waste from that can then enter the small area and affect the coast, the water in the coastline, and perhaps the sea turtles nesting and any other kind of biodiversity. We're here to study agriculture, pollution, and sand mining in the Man and Biosphere site in this particular area of the swash. It'll bring up the seaweed, and we call this a strand line. That's as far up as it comes on the beach, and then the seaweed or any debris will get stranded, and that's the strand line. And then The backwash will be where the heavier particles, when the water is going back out, it will take the heavier particles with it. And that process can cause some erosion. But another contributing factor is sea level rise. If the sea level rises, it means that swash and backwash activity of the waves will encroach more upon the coastline, upon the sand dune, and it will take more of the sand out back with it. So in some areas, we are losing some of our coastline. Rather than going into the mangrove and preventing erosion there, it's coming straight through this area where it's been cleared, and then you get more erosion. So we are more likely to lose this area because now we have a man-made channel coming on the side of that property along the fence, focusing here, and you get more erosion, and therefore more of the sand will be lost, and the sea grapes may not have a chance of surviving.